Hey, what's up everyone? It's Meg here from Fox in the Forest. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountain range. I'm here today to talk to you about winter hiking tips. So a lot of you have asked me about giving you some basic skill knowledge, and winter hiking is certainly a lot of fun. But I'm not gonna lie, like, it's really not for everyone. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even love it a lot of the times, just because the conditions are very difficult, and yeah, it's super rewarding, but it can be a really, really frustrating thing to get into. And I don't want to let that discourage you, but I do want to let you know that if you've struggled with it in the past, or you've maybe thought, oh man, how come I can't do this, that you're totally not alone. There's a lot of people out there who really dislike winter. So, it's okay if you're one of those people. So the first thing about winter hiking I'm going to say is we're going to start with planning, okay? So the first thing I'd say when planning a winter hike is, if it's your first winter hike or your first couple of winter hikes, tone your expectations down quite a bit. Start with something about half the mileage that you can do in the summer. So you want to plan something that, number one, is a couple steps below what you normally do, and number two, safety. Safety is super important, especially where I'm from in Colorado. The avalanche danger is pretty consistent most of the year and pretty scary most of the year. But you do want to make sure that the trails that you're choosing don't go through avalanche terrain. And just because it's not a steep trail doesn't mean it doesn't go through avalanche terrain. So always make sure that you double check your route on something like Hill Map or CalTopo, where you can see the topographical map of the slope angles you're going to be traveling in, on, and around. It's really, really important to make sure that you stay safe out there. So definitely be sure to do that. Another thing you're going to want to check, like you always want to check, is the weather. You want to make sure that there's going to be decent weather, or at least be prepared for conditions if it's going to be super cold or super windy. So there you go, there you have it. So now you've picked your perfect hike. What next? Hiking in winter in many ways is very similar to summer. You want to make sure you always have the 10 essentials with you, and then some, I like to say. So when I travel in winter, I like to take a little bit extra of things. So I'll have a couple extra layers. I'll have an extra pair of socks. I will always take extra food because you're working a little bit harder. And extra water. You want to kind of start a little cold. So with your layering system, you don't want to have all your layers on right away, because you're just going to be stopping in a few minutes just to take them all off. And I still do that from time to time. It's totally fine if that's what you're comfortable doing. But the saying goes in winter, be bold, start cold. Because once you get moving and your blood gets moving, you're really going to warm up quite a bit, and you're not necessarily going to need all of those layers on you at once. But once you stop, you want to make sure you put those layers on. So we're talking about stopping or taking a break. To last a little longer in winter, I found it really helpful to try to stop out of the wind or out of exposed areas if it's snowing. So maybe under a cluster of trees where there's a little less snow and you could sit down, or you can sit on your pack or stuff like that, and out of the wind so you don't get beaten down by the wind right away. And usually I'll throw on a layer, either a wind layer or a puffy layer. So extra gear that you will need in winter, it's really important that you have proper footwear that isn't going to get wet or cold, because wet and cold feet can actually be a serious problem while hiking in winter. So you want to make sure that your boots have a decent amount of insulation and are waterproof. And if you're the kind of person who gets their feet get pretty cold, there's a couple options for you. You can always stuff toe warmers in your feet. I actually do carry toe warmers with me in case I need them. I haven't had to use them yet. Or you can double up on socks. So you say you have like a really thick pair of like trekking socks, you can wear a silk liner that'll help you have a little bit of extra warmth. Or you could get a mountaineering thickness sock, so a really thick plush sock that'll help keep your toes warm. Other than that, you definitely also want to make sure you have proper traction. So the thing with winter is, if you're on like a popular trail, or say you're having a winter like we are this year where the snow is kind of slow to show up, but it has snowed, the snow gets really packed down and it can get really icy. And that's never any fun. While you're traveling in winter, it'll stop you in your tracks pretty quickly, or make the going really slow and really frustrating. So I use Catula micro spikes. They do cost a little bit more. They're not the lowest cost option out there, but they're great. I've had them for 2 seasons, and I've used them religiously over all kinds of terrain, and they hold up really, really well. I have had no problems with them rusting or anything like that. After I'm done with them, I actually toss them in a bathtub to let them dry out before I put them in their bag and store them away. And that's really helped keep the life of kind of like the rubber and the metal. Investing in a pair of snowshoes. So winter hiking is really synonymous with snowshoeing, because what happens when the snow falls is the wind is generated over the mountains, right? So what happens is the snow doesn't fall consistently in a nice flat layer across the entire landscape. It kind of drifts. And when you're going along, maybe you've noticed this if you've tried winter hiking for the first time, you're going to sink, and sometimes you can sink up to like your thighs. And what snowshoes do is they help prevent that sinking from being too severe. You're still going to sink with snowshoes, but you're not going to sink as much. And it can really be a detriment to your day. It's always great to carry them. And of course, snowshoes are weight, metal, micro spikes, they're metal chains, they're heavy too. So your pack is going to get a lot heavier. So that's another reason, I really suggest like going with a lower mileage at first and working your way up to those tougher and tougher terrain. And when you're on snowshoes, they're really not that hard. I know some people are a little intimidated by them, but it's just like walking normally. Backing up is a little interesting. You maybe to avoid some embarrassment. Maybe you want to go in a small circle instead of trying to walk backwards, because those tails will catch the bottom of the snow and you'll fall. I've fallen plenty of times. It happens to everyone. It's actually kind of funny. Navigating, I would say, is another really just skill that I cannot stress enough. So navigating in winter, what ends up happening is the trail goes away, right? And people walk along and they're just going to kind of take the path of least resistance. And that might not be the trail. And it could lead you to a place where you don't even know where you are. Or you have 3 different sets of tracks going off into the snow. How do you know which one is right? Well, if you know how to navigate, it becomes a lot easier. So I have 2 methods when I navigate. I always bring a map and compass with me, and I do know how to use it, but I primarily rely on my GPS on my phone. But I do have that backup because, paper doesn't take batteries, right? So, I really encourage you guys to get out there and give it a shot. Just don't bite off more than you can chew, and you'll be fine. You'll learn, and things happen outside, and you'll learn to adapt and learn what works and what doesn't. And as long as you have a basic understanding of how to get around, what to look for in terrain, and you really stay well within your abilities, you can have a really great time outside this winter. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, always feel free to reach out to me. I am a giant open book, and be sure to check out a lot of my winter content on both my blog and my YouTube channel this season, and see what I'm up to with writing for other publications as well. I got a lot of really awesome and exciting stuff to share with you, and it's going to arm you up plenty to have an excellent winter season. Bye.